A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So, what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Jennifer Wong. She is the head of marketing at Convoy. Jennifer, how's it going today?
Hi, Logan. Things are going great here over in Seattle. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
We are excited to have you, Jennifer. Noticed Convoy again on the LinkedIn top startup list. I think you guys made the top 50 list that just came out. So that was part of the reason I wanted to have you on the show, share some of the great things you guys are doing. So let's kick it off there, Jennifer. Give us a little bit about your background and what you and the team at Convoy are up to these days.
Sure. So my background has actually always been at technologies that are really changing the industry. Today, I'm at Convoy, and Convoy is a new type of trucking company. So we provide trucking services where we connect businesses that need to ship freight with our network of carriers. And the reason why that is so different is because today, traditionally, it's been done always manually without a lot of transparency and reliability between the partnerships of truck drivers and then businesses that need to ship freight. So we've actually built a technology platform, a marketplace, to better match the loads that need to be shipped with the truck drivers that are best positioned to do that job. So it's pretty disruptive in the new way businesses are thinking about how they can optimize their entire supply chain in that way.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So that actually is a great segue into the topic that I know you wanted to cover today, Jennifer, and that's, when you've got one market that you're trying to reach, but you've got two very distinct audiences, how do you remain consistent? How do you reach both of those? And what are some of the challenges that you might be facing? So I think to provide a little context to some of the content you're going to share regarding that topic, tell us a little bit about, the two-sided market that you're trying to approach. And then we'll dive into some of the practical takeaways for anyone that faces kind of this two-sided market, because you're dealing with folks on the supply chain side as well as the drivers, right?
Yes, exactly. So for the content marketplace and through our marketing messages, we always try to think about how do we make this resonate and connect with both perhaps an executive at a Fortune 500 company that owns an entire supply chain. Also, at the same time, we're reaching this community of truck drivers, which is the most common job in the country. There's 3.5 million truck drivers. And we want to think about how we can first introduce Convoy, kind of a new company, into their market, as well as really connect with them, showing that we understand kind of their pain points and how we're looking to really help solve their problems for them. So kind of where I initially first started is to just understand if your marketing message is working or not. And for us, because it is a digital platform, I really started looking at our website first. So really looking at, are we doing a good job of attracting the right types of people to our website and understanding the analytics behind that. So we have pages specifically targeted towards those shipper audience and then also towards the trucking community. So first looking at the traffic coming in, running some segmentation through Google Analytics, and then understanding the conversion rate. Because if the conversion rate is on the lower side, there's a pretty high chance that people just aren't fully grasping what you're trying to sell to them or really showcase about your business. So kind of looking at the conversion rate with audiences at the same time. And I think that's really important, and it sounds so basic to start with, but if they aren't going to understand instantly how you can help them or how you can partner with them, they're likely just going to jump to another website. Like if you were on a website and you had no idea what was going on, you're probably likely to just hit that back button instead of trying to dig further. And this is specifically important for our trucking community audience because 80% of the time they're coming to our website on their mobile device. So we would need to be super crisp in terms of how we communicate because they won't have time or they won't want to go through the process, or you and I probably wouldn't even want to go to the process. They're trying to navigate a website on your mobile device in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know one of the things you mentioned as we were chatting offline before, Jennifer, was, clarity and consistency. Where does that come into play when you've got two distinct audiences? How do you manage being consistent, but knowing that you've got very different segments of your audience that you're trying to be clear with on different messages?
Yeah, so I think every time you write a content piece or a marketing message, always thinking about who the audience is specifically, because I think it's too easy to think, oh, this should be for both truckers as well as shippers. But in reality, it's either going to be the shipper or the trucker reading that marketing message. So it's aligning that message to one specific audience. We also do think about our corporate messaging kind of from Convoy, but that addresses a separate audience where it might be candidates or analysts or others in the industry. So always having that specific audience in mind is super important.
Yeah. And having that specific audience in mind for each piece of content that you're putting out or the content on specific pages and not kind of falling into that trap of these are all the people we're trying to reach. These are, our 5 key personas and trying to reach them all at the same time, but going individually with whatever message you're trying to get across. I love it. So the next thing you wanted to talk about, Jennifer, was determining if your marketing message is too complicated. And I think that could definitely be a struggle if, you're a marketer in your shoes where you have a two-sided market or you have a lot of different personas that you're trying to reach. What are some of the things that you encourage folks to do there to see if their messaging is a bit too complicated?
Yeah, I think first, like I mentioned, it's kind of really understanding if it's working and if it's not. And once you start to look at your analytics or measurements based off of what types of technologies you're using and you start to understand where it's not working, that's when you have the chance to really rethink your entire messaging strategy, where you want to think about first, how can you remove all of the fluff and filter and just really get down to what's important. And I think that's kind of on the clarity and simplification side. And then being able to really showcase the true value and the benefit that your product or service delivers. And I think a few steps to kind of start going through that process. The first would be to really think about the problem that you're trying to solve for each of your audiences or audience. I think as a marketer, sometimes we assume a lot of our buyers are just like us. They're just as familiar with the industry as we are, but it's not necessarily always like that. And the average person will probably only be interested in how your product or service can make their life easier. They don't need to dive into all of the details until you start maybe getting into that next stage of the funnel or that relationship with them. So thinking about how you can simplify, translate all of your marketing messages so that you just explain why your product or service deserves their attention and just make it super plain and simple in that way.
Today's growth story is about Lilliard Insurance Agency. The biggest challenge for one of their B2B sales agents was finding contact information for businesses that fit his target profile.
He was running out of time to meet his monthly sales goal, so he turned to simple internet searches. Too often, the information he found was old and unreliable. He was spending too much valuable selling time looking for email addresses and phone numbers that turned out to be inaccurate and unusable anyway. The rep, Sam Hoover, heard about Sales Genie from his manager, and that's when everything changed. Sam started using Sales Genie's powerful database access to build targeted lists and get the contact information he needed to work new leads. He was able to profile his best customers to find prospects that looked just like them. He even used Sales Genie to find ways to reach them with direct mail, email, and online marketing campaigns. Sam immediately increased his monthly sales production by 200%. Can Sales Genie help you drive similar sales results? Probably. Head over to salesgenie.com/B2B to get a demo and a free customer analysis. All right, let's get back into the show. I've heard some salespeople and marketers refer to the curse of knowledge. As marketers and salespeople, we get so ingrained in our products and services in our industry that we forget that our buyers aren't as familiar with what we're talking about. We jump to the intricacies. And I think you touched on a great point there in making sure that your messaging lines up with where the buyer is in the funnel. They may need to know some of those intricacies, but making sure that you're putting those in front of them when they're at the decision stage, not higher up in the funnel, just considering and doing research. So tell us a little bit more, Jennifer, about moving from there in defining your value prop. I love some of the things you mentioned as we were chatting offline in focusing on the feelings as you communicate your value prop.
Yes, the difference between positioning and messaging, I think some marketers use those interchangeably, but they're so different. Because the positioning is really about your value proposition, and you do need that as a part of your messaging. And that's just really defining what makes you different than other businesses that might say that they do the same thing. It's kind of your differentiator to show, like, this is why someone would choose to work with, in my case, Convoy, versus another business that says something similar. And just being able to articulate that really clearly is another way just for buyers to understand like why they would choose to work with you and what that entire experience would be instead of working with somebody else if they're making that decision. And a lot of the times when we talked about kind of focusing on the feelings, outlining those benefits is important, but a lot of people also make those types of decisions based on emotion. So really connecting with them, make it a very personalized feeling so that it resonates with their pain points, where they have this feeling when they're kind of reading more about your business, they just say, this business or this product really gets me. They understand what I'm trying to solve here.
Tell us a little bit about that idea. You touched on the concept of an experience, and I think a lot of forward-thinking marketers right now are focusing on that, not just the message that they're communicating, but the experience that they're creating with their brand as buyers not only move through a marketing and sales funnel, but it ties into customer success and some other things there. Would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of creating an experience and where the rubber meets the road there. Funny, we're talking about truckers and I mentioned where the rubber meets the road, but tell us a little bit about your thoughts on creating an experience.
Yes. So I think creating experiences, I would say how a lot of marketers that are really cut-focused think about developing their marketing communication plans today. So it's not just from the marketing, whether it's inbound or outbound, but it's really across your entire company. So like you mentioned, whether it's customer service, so they are a current customer, how are they engaging with customer service? Down to even maybe the finance department, how are they getting billed? And how does that experience contribute to working with you and developing that partnership moving forward? I think when you're thinking about new customers and creating that experience, there's a lot of uncertainty. And as a marketer, you want to reduce the risk and uncertainty for a potential new buyer. So I think it's being able to really outline and articulate all of the questions that they might have in mind, such as like, so if I did get started with them, what would that onboarding look like? And being really proactive in your marketing to be able to showcase what that experience is like. whether you do maybe demos ahead of time or share testimonials or have some sort of checklist, just so that someone can imagine what success looks like or what using the product looks like before they even make that decision in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of working backward from there, because I think you touched on something there. The more that we can build trust by, eliminating the fear of change, the more frictionless we can make the experience for new prospective clients, as well as, ongoing existing customers. I love that. Jennifer, this has been a great conversation. I love what you're talking about here in approaching a two-sided market. It sounds like there's some similarities, but some things that you really need to think about to set yourself up for success. If anybody listening to this would like to learn more about Convoy or reach out to you or just stay connected with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
So if you're interested in learning more about Convoy, you can go to convoy.com, or I'm happy to personally connect with you as well, whether you connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. My email address is jennifer@convoy.com.
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for reaching out.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. All those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.